Today's video will look into a scenario in which Iran forms an empire. And well, the first thing Iran does is they go to war with Azerbaijan. Why not? I mean, who wouldn't want to invade Azerbaijan? Definitely not Iran trying to become the biggest oil nation by stealing the oil. I mean, it wouldn't be a big deal. It would be for some nations. As the exclave is gone, they move up into this part of Azerbaijan and they commit massacres. Then they come into this area, they take the capital, Baku, and then they move in. Then they decide to move into Armenia and Georgia, with Armenia falling really fast, like within a week. And then Georgia fell in 5 days. Well, at this point, they annex the three, and they now have access to the Black Sea. The world is not happy with this, but when are they ever happy at Iran? Yes, we're not using alliances, but there's one that could form. Well, Iran looks a lot different now. Well, let's invade another fun nation, which would be Turkmenistan. And well, I hope Turkmenistan enjoys this, with Iran rapidly invading this part. And then they aggressively attack this area. And at this point, this country falls into Iranian tyranny, with Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq signing an alliance. The Green Alliance. And I don't really get many more nations to join, just ones that are fearing Iranian aggression. I do what a sane person would do and invade Afghanistan. Also, Afghanistan is only able to stop the British, the Americans, and, well, a few other nations. And I'm launching a fast advance. That's backwards. A fast advance through here, through mountains. And then they eventually get to Kabul, which they take. And then they take the northern part of the country over. And with the country overrun, well, they surrender. They definitely surrender. Well, then they annex Afghanistan, with Russia being an unlikely war they want to start. So they go against Turkey, with Turkey realizing this too late, that they should have joined with the Saudis. Well, Turkey is in a lot of trouble now, with them having to fight Iran, which has become strong Iran. But this leads Iran, the anti-Iran pact, to expand. And well, yeah, doesn't look good for them either. Actually, one of these nations doesn't join, because that would be not even possible to happen. Well, let's invade Turkey, everyone. And this is going to be a lot of fun for Turkey. No, I'm kidding. Turkey will hate this, but Iran will love this. With them quickly launching an advance right into Turkey, and they go very far, very fast, with Turkey not having time to react. They end up being pushed all the way to Istanbul, and they lose Ankara. And they manage to collapse, and they collapse, they do, with them deciding to annex quite a bit of land. And they annex it, yeah. And now they have an ally, basically, a puppet. A puppet state that they make an ally. Why would they do that? Because they can. The satellite state. Well, it is Turkey, so who knows? how well it'll actually be for them, with them having all of Turkey basically at this point under their control. Well, Russia says they'll defend the Central Asian states as they form an alliance. But Iran, having troops on all fronts, decides to try it. And well, we won't worry about what's going on in Ukraine. Well, 1 second. Now we can start the invasion. And while Iran starts a main front into Uzbekistan, and they start a front into Tajikistan, which quickly moves into Kyrgyzstan. They also move north into Chechnya and Dagestan of Russia, and southern Caucasus nations, or northern Caucasus nations realistically. And Kazakhstan starts losing land. The advance towards Crimea beginning, with Crimea being held out like a fortress. The Iranians eventually manage to enter, and they move into Sevastopol, and they push the Russians out. While the front into Kazakhstan starts taking a lot of success, which leads to them having a northern access route towards Volgograd. And well, it looks like this at this point, the front here, with Tajikistan on the verge of collapse. Now they do collapse, and they fall under Russian control. Not Russian, Iranian control, and they continue their advance into Kyrgyzstan. As it collapses, and well, not to go that far, but anyways. And then moving in over here, and they connect these fronts, and they quickly move into Volgograd as the southern front starts collapsing, with Kazakhstan collapsing and Russia agreeing to peace. So let's see how the peace treaty goes. Too much. And then, well, they make a Stan puppet state after annexing most of it, like that. And then they go to war with the Middle East. And they bring in their least favorite nation. The nation that they mock. Because, well, it's their time to shine. And then going to war with Pakistan, mainly holding off this front, they're going to try a smaller thing. But with them focusing mostly on Pakistan first, believing it's weaker than the full alliance there. As they also spark a Baluchi revolution, even though they're going to annex it. That's pro-annexation. And then they take Pakistan. Pakistan surrenders, ready to start a war somewhere else. But they need to finish the war they have. With this Arab pact taking lands in the south. You might be wondering, how are they attacking Iran directly, but not the north? As they set up a big front line here. Try to quickly get to Tehran. But what they don't know is that there's forces here and enough. And they enter into Syria. Yes, they do. Well, in their enter into Syria, they move to the south from the north. And well, honestly, they do a really good job as they take out Syria, moving behind the front. With these forces being quickly forced to withdraw. With them moving into northern Iraq. Quickly moving to here. As they move in to attack Israel, and they succeed in it. With them attacking Oman and the UAE with a landing here. Which they quickly take the advantage with. As they move deep into the desert, and then they move across Oman's populated area. Well, at this point it falls. And the border gets pushed into Saudi Arabia. With Iran finally taking back the resources they need. And they do it within a few days. And well, at this point, they move into southern Iraq to get into Kuwait, which leads into northern Saudi Arabia. With them finally moving into Egypt after taking their least favorite nation ever, Israel, out. And well, they move over here. And they get deep enough into Egypt that Egypt realizes, yeah, we should probably surrender. Which is what they do, along with Jordan falling, and then Iraq quickly follows, with them getting steamrolled. And them trying to cross Saudi Arabia. And then they move down and take Jeddah, Mecca, and other cities. And then they move in from the north doing this. Thus, they then take Riyadh. Then this area falls in this. Then they move into Kuwait and take it out. So let's see the peace treaty and an Arabian puppet. As they annex most of the land now, they have complete control of the, well, Gulf and Strait that they like. And they have control over the Suez Canal, so they're unstoppable. Practically. And so they go to war with India, yeah. India does awful in this war, with Iran advancing on all fronts. And well, they do a really good job at it. Yes. And the Pakistan puppet moves in, and they both the Kashmir puppet quickly takes over here. With them then moving in here to encircle Delhi, and then they take Delhi over. I think Delhi's about there. With India realizing they are in trouble as the forces move across their populated area. But then they move south to take Mumbai. And then they move across the populated land. This is what the fall of India would look like. And well, at this point, they're like, well, we probably need peace. So let's see the with an Indian puppet state being made. India is still alive. They also have Bengal. Yeah, the Bengali area and this area as an exclave now with the puppet expansion. And a big chunk of their land was taken by Iran. And they're much weaker than before. And well, Iran has formed an empire that stretches from Africa to the Indian subcontinent all the way north to Europe. And well, that's all for today's video. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Wild Mapper out, but not until you subscribe. Bye, guys!